Some video game endings come out of nowhere and completely devastate us. So today, we're gonna get a little emotional with 10 games that had endings that absolutely floored us. Now, before diving into the deep well of depression experiencing these endings has kind of caused me, I just want to throw out a blanket spoiler warning for this entire video. We're gonna spoil the hell out of these games you see on screen here. Quick, pause it, check it, do it. We had to suffer through this, so now so do you. Starting off with number 10, it's Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Now, for all the destruction and mayhem that happens in the original Modern Warfare game, it seems like it's all leading up to your traditional video game happy ending. A whole coalition of SAS and Marine Special Forces team up to stop the Russian ultra-nationalist bad guys from detonating nukes and kickstarting World War III. And when I say last second, I mean it because the baddies actually managed to launch the nukes, so you have to rush to the control room and input the abort codes so they don't actually detonate. It's a nail-biter conclusion to this story. And in most games, that's where things would end. Here, though, there's still one final mission left, appropriately named Game Over.
Not good enough, base point. We'll be dead in 10. Truck moving up on the left.
Now, you still have to get back to the extraction point. This place is still deep in enemy territory, so getting out isn't going to be easy, even if it seems like the mission is going to be a victory lap at first. It's all casual banter and backslapping at first, bro stuff, you know, but when you actually get on the trucks to leave, they send in an attack helicopter to chase you down. There's pretty much nothing you can do against this thing. Even with rockets, it's just too fast to hit. I think it's actually possible to get a rocket hit on the chopper, but it doesn't actually do anything. Now, after a short chase, the helicopter takes out a bridge on your exfil route, trapping you. Now, the final minutes of the game are a desperate last stand against swarms of enemies. Eventually, a tanker truck explodes, injuring multiple guys, and in the end, your position gets overrun and multiple named characters get killed off in quick succession. Now, first, Griggs bites it with a shot to the neck, but then Gaz gets unceremoniously shot in the head from behind by the bad guy, to keep it simple. This is all a big moment, man. All the other SAS guys with you get executed, and the only reason you manage to survive is by pure luck when the baddie gets distracted. It's awesome, but it's also just like this grim final sequence that sees every major named character either dead or near death. And it all happens in the span of just a few minutes. Things go from pretty good to completely screwed almost immediately, and it's a hell of a devastating ending. It's also a legendary one. This one has made grown men cry. Next at number 9, here's the thing about Red Dead Redemption. It's got one of the most unique ending sequences in any video game ever. The West Elizabeth chapter seems like the ending of the game. You know, you face off against the old leader of your gang. There's a big boss fight with Dutch. You kill him. In any other game, the end wouldn't be far off. A lot of big action here. A lot of lead up to this. But Red Dead Redemption does something unusual. It just keeps going. There's an entire epilogue chapter at Marston's Ranch. Instead of escalating the stakes even higher, things actually settle down. The missions are mostly mundane activities like hunting and cattle herding. Marston's family, who the entire game he's been trying to reunite with, actually become characters here, and this part goes on for a while. I don't know about you, but there was this sense of dread hanging over the entire thing for me. Like, I knew something had to happen at some point. There had to be some big climactic moment this was all building up to. Of course there is, but it still feels like it comes out of nowhere because there is really no setup for it. There's nothing in any of the previous missions that foreshadows what's about to happen, this sort of betrayal. It's just like you start a mission, John has a short but evocative conversation with his son, and then the army comes rolling in. We never find out why this is happening, why Edgar Ross decided to renege on his deal with John Marston. We don't even know why they're coming here to kill you, but it's happening, and all you can do is desperately try to defend the farm against increasingly impossible odds. The ending to this game has become legendary, but it's easy to overlook just how sudden and shocking it was playing this part for the first time. Not seeing it memed a million times, not seeing it on YouTube or TikTok, just experiencing it, getting caught off guard. Even if we knew that something was going to happen and someone was going to attack the farm eventually, it still hits you like a ton of bricks. The final segment where John opens the barn doors into a hail of gunfire is both tragic and triumphant. John went out on his own terms, even if it was always going to be a losing battle. Now, this isn't the actual end of the game. There's still one final sequence where you play as John's son Jack, who hunts down and gets revenge on Edgar Ross for all this, but that's more of a real epilogue. There's a slow, methodical sequence of events that feels like a sad inevitability, while the attack on the Marston farm and their family feels like it comes out of nowhere. Every time I go back and play the game, I'm always a little surprised when the mission comes up, like, this is happening now. That was quicker than I remember. Even when you know it's coming, again, it still manages to sneak up on you. Now, next over at number 8, let's talk Mafia. Because in 2002, games just didn't really have stories quite like this one. Yeah, it was your cliche mobster crime story of like rags to riches, followed by an eventual downfall, full of plot points and characters taken liberally from The Godfather, Goodfellas, and you name it. It managed to have its own unique identity. Now, when Mafia came out, we were used to crime stories in video games that basically boiled down to, you're the coolest gangster, you kill all the other gangsters, congrats, you're the king of the gangsters, you badass. Wish fulfillment was the name of these games. And we're not saying that that's bad, it's just what people like me had kind of come to expect from these types of games. At the end, it seems like the ending to Mafia is going to be pretty happy for our boy Tommy Angelo. In the final mission, you get into a shootout with your former allies in the Salieri crime family, but you manage to kill all the guys gunning for you and escape to some kind of early form of witness protection in order to keep your family safe. In the ending, Tommy puts the Don behind bars, he does some time in jail, but in the end, he's able to reunite with his family and live a fairly happy life. The game jumps forward decades to where Tommy is an old man, watering his flower bushes, and this is where the ending takes a turn. Two guys roll up, they approach Tommy, ask his name, and when he turns around, one of those guys is holding a shotgun.
Mr. Angelo. Yes. Mr. Salieri sends his regards.
One of them says, Mr. Salieri sends his regards, and then bang, they shoot you dead. The end of the game is Tommy, his guts shot out, staring up into the sky while his family screams in terror. It's an extremely dark and tragic ending, especially for a game from 2002. I know when I first saw it, I remember my jaw was like hanging wide open. I couldn't believe it's how the game ended. It blew my mind. I didn't know games could do stuff like this. Of course, tragic or sad endings happen in games all the time now, but this one just stands out. It's somehow both extremely shocking and sudden, while being totally appropriate for the story that they were trying to tell. Next, over at number 7, In contrast to 2002, when bad endings were surprising, by 2008, that kind of ending was practically expected. Game devs just loved shocking players with a cliffhanger or a downer ending in that era. I mean, Gears of War did it, Killzone did it. Hell, I'm pretty sure Ratchet and Clank game even ended with a downer at one time. Every game ending was a bummer back then. One game stood above all the others with its ending though, and that has to be Resistance 2. The ending to this game is so dark, so nihilistic, and so utterly pointless and mean-spirited that it deserves special recognition for the many ways it completely undermines pretty much everything you did for the rest of the game, you know? The second Resistance game is the gaming equivalent of misery porn. You know, it's just one L after another for the human race. But usually when games have you lose a lot, it's to make the moment where you finally win feel even more triumphant. This game doesn't do that. The first game kind of did. Even when things were at their most pointless, it seemed like good guy Nathan Hale was fighting back the alien Chimera forces. Well, in the second game, it's revealed that Europe is completely overrun and now the aliens are invading America. Every mission is one step forward, two steps back. The same thing happens at the end, where the good guy manages to take out the alien leader on his ship, but too much contact has irreversibly infected him with the alien virus that'll turn him into like a psychic super monster or something. In another game, maybe that means your guy can get cool psychic powers or something to, you know, fight this alien menace. But here, nah, you're just screwed. The alien command ship you blew up seemingly had no effect on the invasion. And for good measure, you're about to turn evil. So the other major character, Joe, shoots your guy in the head. The good guys lost, the aliens won, and your guy just dies pointlessly. The end. It's a miserable ending for what is kind of a miserable campaign overall, vibes-wise. I guess I should have seen it coming, but, you know, it's just such an unpleasant game. I figured there had to be some kind of win, some kind of crescendo at the end, right? Well, no, not here. Sorry, not with Resistance 2. Next at number 6, if there's one type of game where a dark and devastating ending comes out of nowhere and feels totally appropriate, it's gotta be a horror game. Usually these types of endings aren't sad or tragic, but they're just jump scares to hype you up at the end, maybe setting up a potential sequel. I guess that's what the DLC to Dead Space 3 was trying to do, but with no sequel in sight, this cliffhanger ending is now just a regular old ending. And boy, is it a grim conclusion for Isaac Clarke's story. At the end of Dead Space 3, it seems like Isaac sacrificed himself to stop like this gigantic necromorph moon from destroying all of civilization. And while that wouldn't have been great for Isaac, you know, being dead and everything, it still would have been better than the ending we got for Awakening. This DLC picks things up immediately after the ending of the main game. Now, Isaac has to escape the planet and get back to Earth to warn everyone of the true danger of these necromorphs. While this is going on, voices in his head warn him to stop. Obviously, if the necromorphs don't want you to go back to Earth, then that's what you should go do, right? So you manage to get a ship and get it working and you rocket back to Earth. It seems like all is well, only when you try to contact anyone, the line is dead, or they're screaming. There's no one to contact.
Earth Orbital Control, this is Isaac Clarke aboard the CMS Terra Nova requesting clearance, over.
Are you sure you got the right channel? This is over 200 years old.
Yeah, no, I changed it over, right? Trust me, it's right.
EarthGov Command. This is Sergeant John Carver. Do you read me? Is anyone there?
It seems like things couldn't get any worse, but then one of the gigantic moons of the necromorph thing like appears right in front of your ship. They got here first using the coordinates Isaac inadvertently gave them. That's the end. Isaac Clarke dooms the entire human race by bringing this evil alien planet right to humanity, and apparently that's where the Dead Space story ends. There was going to be a fourth game that was supposed to have a non-linear structure where Isaac would go around trying to save small pockets of humanity left in the universe, but it never happened. So this extreme downer is where the series ultimately ends. It's one of those endings that's so dark that you just don't expect them to go there, but they did. It wasn't meant to be the ending of the series, but it does feel kind of appropriate. Next, over at number 5, there are really two things the first Klonoa game is known for. Number 1, its innovative 2.5D level design, and number 2, its batshit ending. For the majority of Klonoa, the first one, you're just playing this cute, easygoing game with a straightforward, kid-friendly story. You're like this cat, squirrel, dog thing that lives in a village with his grandpa. A little star guy needs your help, so you go collect a bunch of gems and save the world. Standard mascot platformer stuff. Solid platforming, great levels that really make the game stand out from the pack. At least until the game slaps you with one of the most jarring endings of all time. So you beat the final boss, Klonoa and his buddy are hanging out on the hill, taking it easy, only for your little pal to suddenly drop the gigaton bomb that, oh yeah, actually, Klonoa doesn't really exist in this world. This guy pulled him from his original world and went so far as to give him false memories. Also, he could just restore the balance of dreams, and I quote. The game ends with Klonoa getting violently sucked out of the world while he begs this little bastard to let him stay. That's the ending to this game. Like your main guy finds out his best friend is lying to him. His entire life is a lie, and then he gets kicked out of the life he thinks he had, all in the span of 2 minutes. I had no idea why they decided that this easygoing little platformer should have an ending that'll traumatize kids for the rest of their lives, but hey, they did it. Next, over at number 4, Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth. Now, I think we all expected the ending to Infinite Wealth to be at least a little sad. I mean, there's an entire chunk of the game that feels like a eulogy for Kiryu. When it's revealed that the Dragon of Dojima is dying of cancer and that this is probably his last adventure, then we knew the ending was going to bring the waterworks, but what I didn't expect was the direction the ending would go in. Because we do see Kiryu at the end, and it is sad seeing him so weak and emaciated, the real devastating part of the ending deals with Ichi. A big part of the story of the game is about how Ichiban Kasuga's life is in shambles because of a targeted harassment campaign against former Yakuza. The guy behind all this suffering is a guy named Eiji, who was one of the game's most despicable villains. He's kind of like the guy that seems like he's just going to get his comeuppance and move on from, like so many other Like a Dragon bad guys in the past. They do something unexpected here, though. Now, when Ichi finds him in hiding, he's a broken shell of a man. He decides to help him because that's just the kind of guy he is, even going so far as to protect him on their way to the police. An angry mob forms, and what we can kind of only describe as the passion of the Ichiban begins when the crowd pelts him with insults and rocks. People attack him to try to get him to fight back, but he holds his ground. It's an extremely melodramatic scene, but damn if it's not effective. Ichi is basically a saint here. This whole sequence just comes out of nowhere too. Like, yeah, we know there was one loose end out there, but I just assumed it would be another boss fight or something, not this whole sequence. Now down at number 3, let's talk Bayonetta 3. The game is the most controversial in the series for a few reasons, but the thing that got fans especially riled up is the absolutely devastating ending. These games, I mean, I'll be totally honest, they're extremely goofy, but they tend to get at least a little serious at the end, if only to make the final boss look like an appropriately dangerous threat. Things never got that grim though, at least in the first 2 games. The third game takes things further with its dramatic conclusion, and it is divisive to say the least. The extremely long multi-stage final battle really ramps up the dramatics. There are twists and turns all over, but the part that really shocked people was that Bayonetta dies at the end. Like, for real, dead as dead, like dies, like played up for maximum drama. It just feels weird in a game like this.
Is she?
She's okay. Seems like we always find each other whenever she needs us.
And we've already come so far.
Fate brought us here together, and it will never tear us apart. We'll always be together, Cereza.
No, Luca. We've always been together. My clumsy, lovely fool. Will forever be in my heart. Daddy. Mommy!
These games usually end in an over-the-top display of powerful nonsense, but this game ends on a downbeat note that just doesn't really fit, in our opinion. Of course, the story is always nonsense in these things. Most people don't even care about them, but still, the game is just so grim overall with so many people dying that it almost feels like just a huge bummer ending. Platinum is a studio with a weird record on endings. A lot of them are kind of bad in hindsight, but this one really stands out to people. It's devastating, and it feels like it comes out of nowhere for all the wrong reasons.
And your so-called truth. And in this very instant,
Did they combine?
what has happened? I've never seen anything like this.
Perhaps you're not a visual learner. I'll teach you the hard way.
Now at number 2, most of the endings on this list are emotionally devastating, but this entry is more literal. The entire premise of Far Cry 5 is that the Doomsday Cult has taken over Hope County in Montana in preparation for the end of days. It all sounds like a bunch of crazy nonsense, but at the end of the game, after you finally defeat their leader, Joseph Seed, it happens. Mushroom clouds in the distance, the end times are here, and the bad guy was totally right. When you're playing the game, the twist feels like it completely comes out of nowhere. The only clues that there is even the possibility of nuclear war are some vague news reports on the radio that you can very, very easily miss. Even if you do hear them, your first instinct is to dismiss the reports as just basic world building that gives a little credence to Joseph Seed's crazy beliefs. Your first thought isn't like that this otherwise straightforward shooter was going to suddenly have a literal apocalypse at the ending, like Terminator 2 Judgment Day style. The entire conclusion is chaos. Everybody rounds up into trucks and tries to flee to the survivalist bunker while the world ends around them. For some completely ridiculous reason, you still try to arrest the bad guy and bring him with you, which leads to this game's ending. Like, the car crashes, it seems like literally every good character dies, and you're trapped in the bunker with a completely broken Joseph Seed who has you handcuffed to a bed. That's the ending to the game. Congratulations! The feel-good event of the summer, 5 stars. It's definitely shocking, we'll give you that. Now, down at number 1, all of the endings to Nier are tragic in some way, but the final one, Ending D in the original game, is especially miserable. Up to this point, every ending basically wraps up the same way, with Nier facing off against the Shadow Lord to rescue Yona. Ending B gives you more context into what's happening and reveals the Shadow Lord's motivations, but Ending D completely changes things on you. You'd think the focus of the story would switch to the Black Scrawl and ultimately the fate of mankind using your information you learned from the second playthrough, but no. Instead of having anything to do with focus of the story up to this point, Ending D goes in a completely different direction. And instead is about your ally turning into a shade. She becomes the new final boss.
Emil is gone, all right? So there's no way anyone can stop me. Please. Before it comes to that, I want you to kill me.
And after you defeat her, you're given a choice of either killing her and ending her suffering or giving up your entire existence to bring her back. They're not joking either. If you choose to save her, then you literally have to delete your entire save.
Very nice. Now, if you want to save your precious Kaine, there are 2 ways to do it. One is to plunge your sword into her chest. That's what she wants after all. Freedom from burdens, freedom from life.
What's the other way?
The other way is to make her a normal human being again. But to make that happen, you gotta trade your own existence for hers. Well, there you go. Good luck with that.
You're that shade. The one who lives inside Kaine. Why are you trying to help her?
Probably for the same reason you are. Enough talk. Make your choice.
Everything you do gets erased. All those hours you dumped into the game are gone, all just to save this character. It's devastating on an emotional level and a physical one. The last thing any gamer wants to do is delete their save, dude, but then that's the nightmare scenario. But the only way to get the best ending is to do it, is to sacrifice it. It wouldn't matter if we didn't care about this character, but at this point, we do. In the third run-through of the game, there are long, well-written prose segments about fleshing out her character and making her sympathetic. It has absolutely nothing to do with the central conflict of the game, but it's nonetheless one of the more devastating endings of all time.
Are you all right?
Yona?
It was you. The one who helped me, I mean. Wasn't it?
Now, those are 10, but we do have a bonus one for you real quick. It's Doom. Enough with all these half-baked, quote-unquote, sad endings. They've got nothing on the utter brutality on display in the ending of the original Doom. You kick the Spider Mastermind's ass, who I guess is the boss of Hell, only to return home to find that Hell has invaded Earth. And to add insult to injury, the demons killed your pet rabbit Daisy. I didn't even know the Doom guy had a pet rabbit. It's ridiculous. and it's supposed to be dumb. But I don't know, the dead rabbit graphic is pretty nasty. The ending messed us up as kids, and it still kind of creeps me out to this day, even though in my brain I know it's just a stupid gag ending. In my heart, I can't help but feel bad for the Doom guy's precious little pet rabbit. But hey, like we said, those are 10 utterly devastating game endings that feel like they came out of nowhere. If you got any examples, we'd love to hear yours down in the comments. We had a good time, and we worked really hard on this one, so we hope you enjoyed. Clicking the like button does help us out. We would appreciate that. But we'll see you guys in the comments. We'll see you in the next video tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.